Yep, day 262, and you can't go wrong with Dev and your crew. We got Bellowing Igosaur. You can't go wrong with this in your crew, I guess. First card of the day. Interesting, last card of the day yesterday is from Ixalan. This also from Ixalan. This is 6 mana, 5 and a white for a 3/5 dino with Enrage. I like this ability. Whenever it's dealt damage, put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. Hold on now. Is that actually really kind of sexy? Like, slightly. Can we just... Especially if it had heals on. Can you imagine? Anyway, 5 toughness is a lot to be swinging into. And if they swing into it and, like, don't kill it, it's going to get to do this again. There's obviously ways you can deal damage to it. In a good Enrage deck, you have ways of doing that. But, like, anybody play this in their dinosaur deck? Like, you got a Gishath commander deck or something like that. You played this guy and, like, it's kind of okay. I want to know. I want to know. Is it actually a good card? I mean, it's 6 mana is so much. 6 mana is more than you want to pay for an ability like this. You know, like imagine what you could do in your Dino deck for 6 mana. But like, every guy gets up every time it takes damage. It's insane. You know, like I don't know. There's some. I kind of like the cut of its hair. I don't think it's a bad card. I'm gonna give this a 3.7 because I know it isn't actually good. But like that's. All your guys go to counter every time it takes damage. It's not bad. But next is Revitalize. This is a fine Magic card. That's some art right there. Where's the Revitalize one I like? Ooh, look at the Mystical Archive, the Japanese Mystical Archive. That's nice. That looks like Tifa a little bit. Just a little. I'm not saying like it looks all the way like Tifa, but it looks a little bit like Tifa. But this is the art I like from the Strixhaven Mystical Archive. 2 mana, 1 and a white for an instant. You gain 3, you draw a card. That's it. Just Healing Salve with a cantrip is a million times better than a Healing Salve. You will pay the extra. And Healing Salve, I will say this, Healing Salve also prevents damage to creatures, so it's not exactly Healing Salve. But it's close. you pay an extra mana, you draw a card, and now we're having a discussion. I've actually played this in decks before, especially when it was in Standard. I kind of played this too often. But Revitalize is not a bad card, man. Basically invalidates an early attack step and draws a card. That's gross in certain decks, man. So I like Revitalize. I got some love for it. I will give this a 4.3. And I'll play a 4.3 from time to time, evidently, because I've done it, man. I put Revitalize in a bunch of decks, and I bet like at least 4 people in the comment section have too. This is a fine card. It really is. The next is Pyreheart Wolf from Dark Ascension. 3 mana, 2 and a red for a 1/1 wolf. Whenever Pyreheart Wolf attacks, each creature you control can't be blocked this turn except by 2 or more creatures. So, Menace. Yeah, okay, the Oracle text says Menace. It also has Undying. So when it dies, if it didn't have a +1/+1 counter, it comes back with a +1/+1 counter. So, should get to attack a couple of times. Kind of like that. You know, if you are building... You know, the red-green wolves deck in Commander. It seems like that was more popular a few years back than it is now. But if you're building the Tovalar deck or whatever, this guy might actually get a spot. You know, you don't have all the best wolves in the world. And this makes it to where you kind of get 2 alphas. You know, all your guys getting Menace, including him, by the way, the way it's worded, actually isn't terrible. It's really not, dude. A 3 mana 1/1 isn't where you want to be, you know, but Undying is a very good ability. Undying, you know, means that they have to balance it to where it has a low PT starting out. But, God, Undying's so good. It's not quite Persist or anything, but in a way it's better than Persist, you know. It's a really good ability. What's weird is I keep thinking to myself, like, man, Dark Ascension predates the keyword Menace, but, like, yes, it does. Because it was, like, 20 years ago. Like I don't think it was quite 20 years ago, but almost, you know, it doesn't feel like it that long ago, but it was, man. Time freaking flies when you're playing Magic, I guess. Pyreheart Wolf, I will give, man, I'm going to give like a 3.6. I'm going to give a 3.75 to this card. I really think there might be something there, dude. Like close. Maybe I'm just generous this week. Steel Sabotage is up next from Mirrored and Besieged. So for a blue mana, you choose 1, counter an artifact, or return an artifact to its opponent's hand. So fine. Just a fine, like kind of sideboardy card here. I'm going to give this a 3.65. Now, I'll give it a 3.75. I'll give it the same thing I gave the Wolf, even though it is ostensibly better in like competitive environments. We are mostly talking about casual commander here, so I don't think you're going to slot this into your commander deck at the end of the day, but it does have some competitive viability depending on how the format falls, you know. But next is Leila. Leila! She's got me on my knees. The Blade Reforged is 3 mana, 2 and a red for a 2/2 haste. It's also a Spirit Warrior. Whenever it attacks, exile the top of your library. You can play that card this turn. Whenever you exile one or more cards from your library and or your graveyard, Leila gets a +1/+1 counter, does she? This is originally printed in Commander 2021, but it was also in Modern Horizons 3. Got some funky art. That's kind of cool. But yeah, this card's only 40-50 cents to grab right now, and it's actually really neat in a bunch of decks. Probably halfway decent in like Ishin 2 Heavens is 1 because it's got that attacks trigger that kind of draws cards. And it's good in Ishin because when you exile more cards, she gets even larger. So it's not bad. Really, this is a 3/3 haste draw a card when it comes into play, or when it swings at least. That's not bad. And I imagine this exile stuff from your graveyards, the ability gets pretty wild. You know, like flashback cards, flashback a Faithless Looting or something like that. She gets larger. And just anything, you know, like if I've got artifacts that can allow me to get cards out of graveyards or just anything like that, you know. Gosh, there's a lot actually. There's a couple of game changers in red that care about removing cards from your graveyard. So yeah, I imagine this actually gets kind of big pretty quick, but also doesn't look like it's all it's cracked up to be. But extra card every turn for certain decks, you know. Again, I think it's okay in Ishin. I'll give this a 4.5. Somewhere around there. I think it's like very close to being there, really. Next is whatever this is. It's Pestilence Demon. This is 8 mana, 5 and 3 black for a 7/6 demon with flying. It also, okay, it's just Pestilence. All right, you pay a black mana. It deals the damage to each creature and each player. Now we're talking. All right, so you got a Pestilence on a giant stick here from Rise of the Eldrazi. I was not around for Rise of the Eldrazi. I've been playing since 1995. I've been playing since Revised Edition came out. But I was taking a little break for Rise of the Eldrazi, and I've never seen this guy in my life. Not once ever, which is kind of crazy because he's in Commander, he's Pestilence on a stick. That seems really, really good, you know? He was printed in some Commander stuff, so it's easy to see why. One of the problems with Pestilence is that sometimes no one has a big enough creature, so like Pestilence doesn't stay out very long or whatever. But this doesn't really have that problem. You can Pestilence for up to 5, and you'll still at least have Pestilence Demon on the table. He also doesn't have the text where like, oh, if no one controls any creatures, you have to sacrifice Pestilence. But I guess it doesn't have to have that text because he is a creature, you know. But this guy's cool. This guy's actually really cool, man. He's worth 50 cents. I imagine this is like the perfect cube card. I don't know how good he is in modern day Commander, but if you're building a cube, this guy's gross, dude. I'd love this guy to be like part of a cube environment. It'd be awesome, man. Still though, pretty splashy effect if you are playing Commander. So I'm gonna give the guy a 5. Like right out of 5, dude. Pestilence is a hell of a drug. It's such a good Pestilence is such a good effect, dude. I miss it. Next is Dreamwinder from Odyssey, and only Odyssey. It's got kind of cool art here from Wayne England. 4 mana, 3 and a blue for a 4/3 Serpent. Dreamwinder can't attack unless defending player controls an island. It's island home. You can also pay blue and sack an island to have a land become an island until end of turn. So if you want to attack with your 4 mana, 4/3, you have to sack islands. Maybe there's a reason that you want to put lands in your graveyard, or maybe you're doing like a landfall, crucible. Actually, yeah. Okay, so green-blue deck, you can put islands in your yard and then crucible them back out. Is that a thing? It's not good enough. Why is it 4 mana? You know what I mean? I'm just not sure what you do with this. So I'm going to give this... It's like actively bad, isn't it? I'm going to give this a 1.5. That's just not good. Next is Referee Squad from March of the Machine. 3 mana, 2 and a blue for a 2/2 Homunculus with Convoke. It also has Vigilance, and when it ETBs, you tap a creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. I cannot not like this little guy. You know, like a theoretical 1 mana, 2/2 Vigilance, tap a guy down for 2 turns. Like, man, like it's, you know, that's not bad. It's not that bad, really. It'll never see play anywhere. But it's, I swear, dude, this is actually kind of a neat little card. Not going to try to maximize it, but I don't hate it either. I'm going to give it a 3.95. 3.95. Seriously, I like Rep Squad. Ooh, Exanguinate Baby from Scars of Mirrodin originally. Who knows this art? I've seen this art before, but it's not the art I'm familiar with. The art I'm familiar with is this one right here. This is 2 black and X for a sorcery. Each opponent loses X life. You gain life equal to the life lost this way, because of course you do. So this I still put in a lot of decks. It's not in my LSO core right now, but it is in Black Waltz number 3. I just built that. I'm kind of waffling between whether or not it should be in the deck, but it is currently in Black Waltz number 3. It was in Judith when I had that built. So this just kind of goes. It was in Dina when I built that deck. So this kind of goes in like most of my Black Commander decks with Swamps. Love me some Exanguinate. I'm an old school fan of like Drain Life and Consume Spirit and Corrupt and like any giant black drain spell. I even like Debt to the Deathless and Orzhov a little bit. So I got love for these kind of effects. And Exanguinate is not necessarily the OG, but it is the most played in casual Commander of basically all of these effects. And it's easy to see why. Part is Boffo. Even if X equals 3, you're still gaining 9 life from that exchange. So it could be worse, But usually you want Exanguinate to either in the game or in the game for 1 or 2, even 2 players. You want your Exanguinate to be for, X equals 8 or something at the very least. And obviously there's a lot of like Phyrexian Arena combos with other cards that get you infinite mana. And Exanguinate's often your sort of, outlet to win the game with all that infinite mana. So Exanguinate does a lot. And it's still easy to see why I see so much play in Commander. Even though it's like dipping in playability in Commander, it's still getting, put in a lot of decks on EDA track, including all of mine. So I'm gonna give Exanguinate a 6. I'm gonna do it. You guys probably think it deserves a 5. Do you? Let me know. Ask the audience. I've already kind of tainted your opinion on this one, I think, with my scores. But I kind of want to know how you feel about Exanguinate. Is this card any good to you? I think this is an easy, like 5.5 at the very least, but I'm giving it a 6, and that is bias on my part because this is one of my favorite kinds of Magic card. It always will be. But next is Steel Shaper's Gift from Fifth Dawn. This is the art we all know. This is a single white mana for a sorcery. Search your library for an equipment, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle up. So fantastic. This card will cost you $5 in its absolute cheapest form, which interestingly is Fifth Dawn. Kind of wild when you think about it. The original version is the cheapest one. Pick up some copies of this. I imagine that you can get some at, that are heavily played for way cheaper than $4.75. Probably spiked recently. Maybe not a spike, but probably went up recently with all the equipment speculation from Final Fantasy, right? But it's because it's a good card. It's a single mana for a tutor. Tutor's one of the best cards in your deck, depending on what you're doing. And even if you're not in an equipment deck, it still tutors like a sword or a Colossus Hammer, or like something that you're doing something wild with. So yeah, Gift is a good Magic card. It's a great bonus card for the day. And I'm going to give it a 6.4. A little bit narrow because it only gets equipments, but it's still a tutor in Commander. So it's really good. But anyway, guys, another kind of good day today. We had some like lower stuff. Don't get me wrong. Not everything was a hit, but honestly, the first couple of days of the week, we've gotten some really good cards. So let's hope it continues tomorrow. I'll see you then.